Hunters, lethal, relentless, and one of Umbrella Corporation's oldest and most successful creations. Born by fusing reptilian DNA with human embryos, these creatures were designed for one purpose only: to hunt and to kill. These bioorganic weapons were first deployed in the 1980s, with the very first variant being the Hunter Alpha. But the line would not stop there. They would evolve into countless other forms, some faster, some stronger, others adapted for aquatic environments, and even some created entirely by accident. And even after the fall of Umbrella, rival companies and bioterrorist groups kept the legacy alive, producing deadlier and more specialized models. That is why in this video we will examine every single variant and see how each one became a different kind of weapon. Hunter Alpha. The very first hunter to truly emerge from Umbrella's laboratories was the Hunter Alpha, codenamed MA-121. This was no failed experiment left forgotten in some archive, but one of the corporation's first fully functional and marketable bioorganic weapons, the result of years of trial, error, and ruthless ambition. Like all early hunters, the Alpha was born from the fusion of reptilian DNA with a human embryo bound together by the T virus, in this case specifically the Beta-2 strain. Beta-2 was a refined version of the earlier Beta strain, developed by William Birkin and used as a specialized bonding agent to stabilize these grotesque creations. The project officially began in 1981 at the Arklay laboratory. Out of these twisted experiments came a mutant female who proved to be the perfect prototype, and she became the genetic template for all alphas that followed. Her clones were matured over the course of a year with heavy exposure to growth hormones, developing a tough, keratinized skin that functioned like natural armor. Most importantly, they retained a surprising level of intelligence, enough to comprehend up to 10 commands from their handlers. By the late 1990s, Hunter Alphas were being mass-produced and shipped to Umbrella facilities around the world, including the infamous Sheena Island facility. On the battlefield, they were deployed only a handful of times, but every intervention left behind nothing but death. In 1998, several Alphas were moved to the Umbrella Executive Training Center, possibly for testing or to clear the area of rival B.O.W.s, but when the investigation team there was attacked, the Hunters were released, later reappearing in the anti-B.O.W. training facilities. That same year, Albert Wesker unleashed a group from the Arklay laboratory to engage stars in combat, not simply to kill them, but to record and analyze their performance. Their most destructive mission, however, came on Sheena Island, when Vincent Goldman ordered both Hunter Alphas and the Tyrant T-103 units to be released in order to massacre the entire population and cover up Umbrella's operations there. The slaughter only ended when Ark Thompson, Umbrella's Undertaker unit, and a chain of explosions obliterated the island in November of 1998. Across the Resident Evil franchise, the Hunter Alpha has appeared in Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil, both the original and the remake, Resident Evil Survivor, and Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, each appearance showcasing a different facet of their lethality and cementing their legacy as one of Umbrella's most iconic creations. Summer is here. The days are longer, the sun is brighter, and if you're like me, that can be a problem. You might not know this, but I suffer from insomnia, and for years I used cheap sleep masks to try to cope. The problem? They let light through, and as a side sleeper, they'd slip off or press against my eyes. That's why I switched to the Manta Sound sleep mask from today's sponsor, Manta Sleep. This isn't just any sleep mask. It gives me 100% blackout with zero eye pressure, and the C-shaped eye cups make it comfortable even when I sleep on my side. Plus, it's got razor-thin Bluetooth headphones built in, so I can play calming sounds or music. It's got perforated materials for airflow, a 20-hour battery life, which is double the competition. It comes with convenient tabs to adjust the speakers, and no annoying battery notifications waking you up. Whether you need to block out those late summer sunsets or tune out the sounds of summer nights, Manta Sleep helps you take control of your sleep environment and get deep restorative rest, anytime, anywhere. You can join the ProNap movement today at mantasleep.com and use my code Pulsa10 at checkout for 10% off. Trust me, once you try it, you won't go back to generic masks. Hunter Beta. The Hunter Beta was Umbrella USA's attempt to refine and improve upon the original Hunter Alpha design. While it was still built on the same biological foundation, the Beta was engineered to be faster, more precise, and more reactive in combat. Thanks to Umbrella's ability to cheaply mass clone its bioorganic weapons, the company could afford to experiment, applying multiple genetic adjustments in the pursuit of the perfect predator. The result was a creature that sacrificed some of the Alpha's raw strength in exchange for an enhanced nervous system, granting it an almost unnatural reaction speed and the ability to dodge gunfire with terrifying efficiency. By September of 1998, the Hunter Beta was still officially in its prototype stage, awaiting final testing before a decision would be made on full-scale production. That same month, however, the Raccoon City outbreak provided the perfect opportunity. Around 20 of these creatures were deployed into the city, where Umbrella's Biohazard Countermeasure Service, along with their embedded monitors, could observe and record their performance in live combat. It didn't take long before the Betas turned the Raccoon General Hospital into their personal hunting ground. Carlos Oliveira himself witnessed one decapitate a zombie with frightening precision, a demonstration of the creature's lethality. Physically, the Hunter Beta was far more grotesque than its predecessor. Its body was warped by uncontrolled tumorous growths, with some individuals even suffering blindness in one eye as a result of these deformities. Yet what the Betas lost in appearance, they made up for in pure agility. These predators could sprint, leap, and change direction with unnerving speed, and even demonstrated the ability to coordinate their attacks when closing in on prey. In the 2020 remake of Resident Evil 3, the Hunter Beta was given a complete redesign. Gone were the tumorous growths of the original. In their place was a tougher, armored hide with shell-like plates that made them more closely resemble the Hunter Alpha, though with faint insectoid qualities. Their appearance was now more uniform, solid, and compact, giving the impression of greater bulk and durability. This hardened exterior didn't just make them look more imposing, it also provided greater resistance to damage. Combat-wise, the remake emphasized the Beta's extreme speed and agility, showcasing their ability to dodge attacks with near-instant movements. They also retained their most infamous signature attack, the instant kill throat slash, a brutal move that punished even the slightest mistake from the player. Within the Resident Evil series, the Hunter Beta's most famous appearances remain in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, from 1999 and its 2020 remake, where they stalk players through the hospital and Umbrella's underground laboratories. Hunter Gamma, codenamed MA-124, the Hunter Gamma was Umbrella Europe's answer to a question much of the company had already abandoned. Could these creatures be amphibians as well? The last time they had tried, a decade earlier, Dr. James Marcus had created the Lurker, a giant frog that lacked the intelligence to be useful in combat. But now, with access to the American Hunter Alpha's research data, Umbrella Europe decided to try again, this time reversing the original formula. Instead of splicing reptilian DNA into a human embryo, they combined human DNA with a fertilized amphibian egg, using the T-virus as the bonding agent. What they obtained was something wholly unexpected. Nicknamed Frogger by the development team, the Gamma was a predator with no eyes and no teeth, but with a gigantic mouth capable of swallowing a human whole, webbed hands with small claws, and a body that required constant moisture to survive. They had just enough intelligence to follow orders, and could even form bonds with their handlers. But their defects were glaring. They were extremely sensitive to heat, struggled to survive outside water, and their exposed jaws left them vulnerable whenever they attacked, making them unsuitable for most combat scenarios. In 1998, Umbrella officially ordered the destruction of several Gamma batches, but one researcher, unwilling to see his creations destroyed, smuggled them into the Raccoon City sewers with the help of a bribed manager, continuing his own secret training program. With him, the creatures were docile, but when two sewer workers wandered too close, the Gammas killed them without hesitation. During the Raccoon City disruption incident, at least 2 were captured and sedated at the General Hospital, only to be accidentally released by Carlos Oliveira while searching for a cure for Jill Valentine's T-virus infection. Others established themselves in Raccoon Park, while a clawless variant broke loose from the water treatment facility beneath Raccoon University. Although they were never mass-produced on the scale of the Alpha, Umbrella still found buyers. As late as 2002, the tropical estate of drug lord Javier Hidalgo housed several Gammas, a setting far better suited to their survival. That same year, an accident at Umbrella's Atlantic Waste Disposal Facility led to the creation of the Glimmer, a bizarre offshoot species that descended from the Gamma line. Over the years, the Gamma has appeared in many different forms across the Resident Evil series. The original Resident Evil 3 depicted them as human-sized creatures, with top-heavy builds and clawed hands. Resident Evil Outbreak shrank them to half a human size, giving them a pot-bellied, more frog-like appearance, a design later reused in the Darkside Chronicles. The Resident Evil 3 remake, however, took them in a radically new direction. Massive, armless mutants with stubby wing-like growths, enormous pharyngeal jaws lined with teeth, and fragile legs that could be crippled by a single pistol shot. Glimmers. The Glimmer was one of the strangest offshoots ever seen from the Hunter line, a mutant species believed to be descended from the Hunter Gamma. Their exact origins remain unknown, but records from Umbrella's Atlantic Waste Disposal Facility suggest that employees suspected a direct connection to the Hunter program. Whatever their genetic starting point, the Glimmers were unmistakably human-amphibian hybrids, with frog-like bodies and movements eerily similar to the Gamma. What set them apart was their grotesque cranial structure. Large, glowing red compound eyes positioned above the mouth. These eyes were extremely sensitive to light, forcing the Glimmers to remain in darkness, where their vision and hunting instincts were at their peak. Like their amphibian cousins, they were natural experts in water, but carried an additional, terrifying weapon: the ability to vomit a highly corrosive stomach acid onto their enemies. This acid served not only as a means of attack, but also as a way to rapidly break down prey for digestion. They were discovered deep within the flooded sections of the Atlantic Waste Disposal Facility, an area they had claimed as their own after escaping containment. Every attempt to dislodge or eradicate them from this territory ended in failure. In the end, the Glimmers were only eliminated when the entire facility was destroyed in September 2002, erasing the last of their kind. Hunter Delta. The Hunter Delta was one of the final creations to emerge from Umbrella's laboratories before the company's ultimate collapse, a bioorganic weapon built upon the legacy of the original Hunter line. Very little is known about its genetic differences from earlier models, but one characteristic stood out immediately: its remarkable resistance to extreme cold. Whereas most B.O.W.s became sluggish or incapacitated in sub-zero conditions, the Delta could operate in the middle of a blizzard without any loss of performance. In 2003, 3 of these creatures were discovered in a remote Russian village in the Caucasus Mountains by Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, and a young girl named Anna. The hunters had been stored in a hidden facility beneath a flour silo, a location that Albert Wesker himself had been attempting to find. Their release was pure chaos, triggered when Chris set off a massive explosion to wipe out a horde of zombies, unknowingly freeing the Deltas from their containment. In the battle that followed, Chris faced them head-on, using his grenade launcher to bring the beast down. But the threat wasn't over. Later, another Delta appeared and crossed paths with Wesker. The creature lunged at him, committing a fatal mistake. With his superhuman strength and reflexes, Wesker dispatched the monster effortlessly, a chilling reminder that not even one of Umbrella's newest, cold-adapted hunters could hope to rival him. Seen only in the Resident Evil, the Umbrella Chronicles comic adaptation, the Hunter Delta remains one of the rarest and most mysterious entries in the entire Hunter family. Hunter R, the Hunter R, development code MA125R, was one of the lesser-known yet equally dangerous branches of Umbrella's Hunter project. Created by William Birkin's team in the underground laboratory of Raccoon City, the R model was based heavily on the original Hunter Alpha, sharing much of its silhouette but incorporating key differences. Its claws were smaller, its back was covered with pronounced spike-like scales, and its overall build was lighter and more agile. The trade-off was obvious: speed over durability. Originally conceived by Birkin in 1981, the Hunter project had already proven successful with the Alpha, but Umbrella, as always, couldn't resist experimenting further, fine-tuning the formula to cover new combat needs. Out of these adjustments came the Hunter R, a cold-blooded ectothermic creature that relied heavily on its environment to regulate metabolism. In the frozen depths of nest, they would enter a state of hibernation, their bodies freezing solid until temperatures rose again, at which point they would violently shatter the ice and return to activity. Smaller and weaker than other hunter models, the R compensated with incredible mobility and a strong pack-hunting instinct. They attacked in coordinated strikes, slashing throats with lightning-fast precision before retreating into the shadows. Their lighter frames allowed them to reach speeds the Alpha could not match, though this lower mass also meant they couldn't absorb as much damage, leaving them vulnerable to sustained gunfire. During the Raccoon City destruction incident, several Hunter R specimens escaped containment following the T-virus outbreak. They slaughtered multiple researchers before being halted when the laboratory's temperature dropped, freezing them completely. Unfortunately for survivors who later entered their sector, restoring the heating system also meant thawing out the Hunters and unleashing them once again. In the Resident Evil franchise, the Hunter R first appeared as an Easter egg in the 1999 Nintendo 64 port of Resident Evil 2, where a dead specimen could be found in the underground lab. Their full appearance came later in Resident Evil Outbreak from 2003 and Outbreak File 2 from 2004, where players encountered them in fast, coordinated assaults, cementing their reputation as some of the deadliest hunters outside the main Alpha and Beta lines. Hunter Mu. The Hunter Mu was named after the Greek letter that symbolizes micro and was essentially a miniaturized version of the Hunter R. Designed to be smaller and easier to store, the Mu could be shipped in greater numbers, with the potential to overwhelm targets through sheer quantity rather than size. Despite their reduced stature, they retain the same attack patterns, agility, and durability as their larger R counterparts, making them just as dangerous in close combat. Several of these compact hunters were stored in Raccoon City during the T-virus outbreak. Once released, they became a serious threat to survivors trapped in an above-ground umbrella facility. For a time, the Mu roamed freely throughout the complex, killing anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. The crisis only ended when Carter, an umbrella researcher, released the Tyrant R, not to save the survivors, but to have the Tyrant wipe out the small hunters infesting the building. The Hunter Mu appears exclusively in Resident Evil Outbreak File 2, but its concept remains one of the most intriguing ideas in the Hunter line. A compact, mass-deployable killing machine that proved size alone did not determine the lethality of a predator. Hunter Elite. The Hunter Elite was Umbrella Europe's attempt to push the Hunter line further than anything that had come before. A showcase of power, precision, and refined bioengineering. This variant appears only in Resident Evil Dead Aim, aboard the luxury ocean liner Spencer Rain, where it was intended as a demonstration model for potential buyers. Physically larger and stronger than its predecessors, the Elite was designed for raw power without sacrificing agility. Its most striking feature was its asymmetry. The right hand lacked the savage claws of the left and appeared more dexterous, perhaps meant for manipulating objects or adapting to specialized combat scenarios. Like many later hunters, the Elite retained amphibian traits, giving it powerful legs capable of tremendous leaps and astonishing bursts of speed across short distances. Developed from the T-virus and perfected through years of hunter research, the Elite wasn't just a predator. It was a statement piece, proof that Umbrella's European division could still produce B.O.W.s that surpassed anything coming out of the American labs. Stronger, more agile, and more physically imposing than the standard hunter, it was a creature designed to impress as much as it was to kill. Fortunately for Bruce McGivern and Fong Ling, only a handful of these clawed nightmares roamed the Spencer Rain, though even a single encounter was enough to prove how deadly Umbrella's finest efforts could be. Hunter 2. The Hunter 2 wasn't born in an Umbrella lab, at least not directly. In 1998, Albert Wesker, long gone from the company but still holding onto some of its darkest secrets, handed over classified hunter development data, including alpha embryos, to a rival organization. From that stolen knowledge, the Hunter 2 was created, an improved version of Umbrella's original design, built to be smarter, deadlier, and more precise. Unlike the more animalistic Alpha, the Hunter 2 was granted enhanced intelligence and advanced tracking ability. Mounted on the left side of its head was a specialized device known as the Seeker, an automated surveillance unit capable of locking onto a target through a transmitted frequency. Once marked, the Hunter II would relentlessly pursue its victim, guided by the Seeker's data until the kill was complete. The system essentially turned the Hunter into a living guided missile. Only this one had claws, terrifying speed, and lethal efficiency. Their first known deployment came during Wesker's HCF Special Forces assault on Rockford Island. There, amid the chaos following Wesker's reappearance, Chris Redfield encountered them for the first time, experiencing firsthand how much more dangerous a Hunter became when it could literally be pointed at a target and unleashed. The Hunter II also spawned one of the deadliest offshoots in the entire line, the Sweeper. At first glance, it looked nearly identical, but its reddish skin, purple-veined scales, and glowing red eyes set it apart. More than just cosmetic changes, Sweepers carried a lethal advantage. Their clothes were coated with a potent poison, ensuring that even a single glancing blow could prove fatal. Designed to sweep through areas already ravaged and finish off survivors, Sweepers embodied the cold, ruthless efficiency suggested by their name. In the series, the Hunter II and its Sweeper variant appear in Resident Evil Code Veronica and its retelling in the Darkside Chronicles, where their intelligence, precision, and ferocity mark them as some of the most formidable hunters ever unleashed, even if Umbrella itself was no longer pulling the strings. Hunter Farfarello. The Farfarello pushed the Hunter design into its most extreme and deadly territory, a creation that combined the ferocity of the Alpha model with the unpredictable power of the B.O.W.s virus. Named after one of the Malebranche demons from Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, the Farfarello was developed before the Queen Zenobia incident as the result of an independent improvement on Umbrella's original work. Instead of starting from scratch, the terrorist group Il Veltro infected standard hunters with the B.O.W.s, producing a new breed that was faster, more aggressive, and equipped with a terrifying new ability: camouflage through translucence. Under the right conditions, this camouflage allowed the creatures to disappear entirely from sight, reappearing only when they lunged at their prey. Physically, the Farfarello resembled the Alpha, but with darker skin and thin spikes protruding from its back. In practice, however, the B.O.W.s strain amplified the hunter's aggression to the point of uncontrollable bloodlust. Maintaining control required constant sedation, and later records revealed that the creatures needed to be dosed almost hourly to remain stable. In 2005, BSAA Chief Clive O'Brien provided Il Veltro with a pack of Farfarellos. Whatever his intentions, the plan quickly collapsed into disaster. During transport to their base at Valkoinen-Moki Airport, the sedatives wore off. The hunters broke free, slaughtered Il Veltro personnel, and caused a devastating plane crash, one of them even being sucked into a jet engine mid-attack. Afterwards, BSAA teams dispatched to the crash site encountered the Farfarello firsthand, forced to fight against monsters that could fade in and out of view, striking from nowhere. Later, when Quint Ketchum hacked into an Il Veltro terminal and uncovered incriminating evidence linking FBC Director Morgan Lansdale to the incident, Lansdale retaliated with an airstrike, wiping out the base and destroying any remaining Farfarello. In Resident Evil Revelations, the Farfarello stands out as one of the most dangerous hunter variants ever encountered, not just for its stealth and camouflage, but because its B.O.W.s-driven rage made it an uncontrollable and almost supernatural force on the battlefield. Hunter ticks. The ticks were one of the strangest offshoots of the Hunter Project, a short-lived arthropod-based experiment that emerged from the Arclay laboratory in the 1990s. Standing upright like their alpha cousins, these monsters traded reptilian features for insectoid ones, with brown chitinous skin and twitching antennae that gave them a far more alien appearance. But their most distinctive trait was their weaponry. Instead of clawed hands, ticks possessed long, sickle-like forearms, specifically designed to slice their victims apart in narrow, dark spaces. In terms of abilities, the ticks were similar to the Alpha in strength, agility, and resilience. But with one disturbing twist: at close range, they could perform an instant kill, executing their prey in a single strike, rather than relying on the hunter's signature mid-distance leaping decapitation. On the battlefield, this made them brutal, close-quarters predators, perfectly suited for ambush tactics. Despite their unique design, the ticks were never mass-produced nor deployed across multiple operations. In fact, they have only ever appeared in the Sega Saturn version of the original Resident Evil, where they completely replaced all hunter encounters once the player entered the underground courtyard area. Mechanically, they were almost identical to their hunter counterparts, and their inclusion was more of a cosmetic swap than a fully new behavior set. Though, in the universe, their arthropod origins in scythe-like arms hinted at a very different branch of Umbrella's twisted research. After their brief appearance, the ticks vanished from the series entirely, never returning in another game. They were mentioned briefly in official guidebooks for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in Code Veronica, and interestingly, in George A. Romero's unused Resident Evil screenplay. The original hunter design actually resembled the tick far more than the reptilian creature that ultimately appeared in the game. And with that, we reach the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, remember to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my upcoming videos. See you in the next one. Hey, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed this video, I've got another one I think you'll love. Check it out.